Australian pension schemes invest around 3 times more in infrastructure investment compared to defined contribution schemes in the UK, and 10 times more in private equity, including in high-growth businesses compared to the UK. One of the key reasons for this is the much larger size of their funds, while our pensions landscape remains highly fragmented. That means many of our pension funds do not have the capacity to invest at the scale required. And more often than not, it is Canadian teachers and Australian professors reaping the rewards of investing in British productive assets through their pension schemes, rather than British savers. That's not good enough, and we need to change that. So tonight, we are publishing the interim report of the Pensions Investment Review. It sets out our plans to create Canadian and Australian-style megafunds to power growth in our economy and start the most significant set of changes to the pensions landscape since the Turner Review.
In what is being billed as a bold economic reform, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has unveiled plans to loosen restrictions on defined benefit pensions, potentially unlocking sown $160 billion in surplus funds. But scratch beneath the surface of this grandiose announcement, and it becomes clear that Reeves is playing a high-stakes game with the future of Britain's pensioners. At its core, Reeves' plan is an audacious cash grab, inly veiled as economic reform. The idea that pension surpluses should be used to prop up the wider economy rather than ensuring long-term sustainability of the funds is both reckless and short-sighted. The government is effectively asking pensioners to take on the burden of economic recovery rather than implementing policies that stimulate growth without raiding savings. Moreover, Reeves' plan raises an uncomfortable question. Who really benefits? The government claims pensioners could receive additional benefits as a result of the changes, but this is far from guaranteed. With fund managers given greater investment freedoms, pensioners' security could become secondary to risky market ventures that benefit financial institutions and corporate investors rather than ordinary people. This is not the first time Labour has attempted to tinker with pensions in ways that have ended in disaster. Gordon Brown's infamous tax raid on pension funds in 1997 drained billions from retirement savings, weakening pension schemes for years to come. Now, under Starmer's government, we are witnessing yet another attempt to meddle with the financial stability of retirees under the guise of economic progress. The rhetoric from Downing Street is strikingly detached from the reality pensioners face. Prime Minister Keir Starmer claims his government is rewiring the economy and removing hurdles to growth. But if this rewiring means putting pensioners' futures on the line, then it is not reform. It is an act of betrayal. Reeves insists she is tearing down the biggest barriers to growth. But the real barriers to prosperity lie in the government's failure to address productivity, investment in innovation, and support for small businesses. Instead of targeting pension funds, why isn't the government focusing on fixing the UK's broken tax system, reducing red tape for entrepreneurs, or tackling the chronic underinvestment in key industries? By prioritizing short-term economic headlines over long-term stability, Reeves is taking an unacceptable risk with people's hard-earned money. Pension funds exist to provide security, not to act as a slush fund for a government desperate to conjure up growth. If this scheme backfires, it won't be the fund managers or politicians who pay the price. It will be Britain's pensioners, whose futures have once again been put on the line by reckless economic tinkering. This is not just an economic gamble, it is a betrayal of trust. Reeves and Starmer must be held accountable before they do irreparable damage to the retirement security of millions. Pensioners deserve guarantees, not gambles. In an era of shifting alliances on the British right, Nigel Farage has made a striking effort to distance himself from Tommy Robinson, the controversial activist and founder of the English Defence League, EDLI. Farage's recent criticism, particularly his statement that Robinson would not be an asset to us, suggests a strategic positioning as he eyes the evolving landscape of right-wing populism in the UK. The rift between the two figures is not entirely new, but Farage's latest remarks are among his most explicit to date. Speaking on Robinson's rhetoric, Farage argued, "It's as if he wants to go to war with everyone of the Islamic faith." This distinction is significant, as it underscores Farage's consistent effort to separate his brand of nationalism from the more confrontational, street-level activism embodied by Robinson. Farage has long sought to maintain credibility within mainstream right-wing politics. His past leadership of UKIP and the Brexit Party, now Reform UK, demonstrated his ability to capitalize on voter dissatisfaction while staying within the bounds of electoral politics. Robinson, on the other hand, has been a perennial outsider, rallying his base through grassroots protests and direct confrontations with authorities. Farage likely sees Robinson's involvement as a liability, one that could alienate moderate voters and tarnish any movement he leads. Farage's comments are as much about optics as they are about ideology. While he has previously warned against the dangers of radical Islamism, he has been careful to avoid blanket criticism of the Muslim community as a whole. Robinson's approach, which often lacks nuance, risks turning off voters who might support policies on immigration and national security but reject outright hostility towards an entire religious group. The timing of Farage's remarks is also worth considering. As the Conservative Party struggles with internal divisions and Reform UK attempts to carve out a larger share of the right-wing vote, Farage may be attempting to position himself as a viable alternative to mainstream parties, one that is tough on immigration but avoids the baggage associated with far-right extremism. By drawing a clear line between himself and Robinson, Farage ensures he remains palatable to a broader electorate while keeping potential allies in the Conservative Party within reach. Farage's decision to publicly denounce Robinson suggests he is playing a long game. The UK's right-wing populist space remains fragmented, with Reform UK, disillusioned Conservatives, and various nationalist movements all competing for influence. If Farage hopes to lead a credible movement capable of mounting a serious challenge in future elections, he cannot afford to be seen as aligned with figures like Robinson, whose history of criminal activity and incendiary statements make him an easy target for opponents. For now, Nigel Farage's strategy appears clear: present himself as the responsible, electable voice of British nationalism while leaving figures like Tommy Robinson to the fringes. Whether this approach will pay off in the long run remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Farage is as politically astute as ever, and his latest move is unlikely to be his last. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Join our Telegram community for exclusive updates. Link below.